The Oklahoma Sooners missed out on a running back in the 2026 recruiting class. Where do they turn their attention next? We'll discuss coming up on Locked On Sooners.
You are Locked On Sooners, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma Sooners. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks again for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Shout out to all the everydayers out there. Tune in and subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcast. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So, four-star running back Jonathan Hatton, one of Jay's favorite players in this class, committed to Texas A&M on Saturday. It seemed like that was going to be the way it went after all the recruiting predictions came in for Oklahoma last Sunday night, and then quickly flipped to the Aggies.
Yeah, the Sooners had the trend was going for Oklahoma for a bit with Jonathan Hatton, and then of course it completely course corrected. And I totally understood. The big thing with Jonathan was he was a big DeMarco Murray fan, and that was when I first saw the announcement for the commitment on Saturday, and then we saw all of the future cast from Rivals folks jump in there. I'm like, okay, think they may have some insight. It sounds like there's a potential chance that Oklahoma can regain his commitment. Well, as things went down, it seems that just the uncertainty of DeMarco Murray still is, I guess, rolling in the back of his mind, or Texas A&M said, we desperately need you more. So now that you decommitted, please come here. So, but I'll be honest, John, I don't think this recruitment is over. I don't think that he's done. He says helps him to be done. But if I'm correct, he's still doing official visit to Oklahoma at the end of the summer. So I don't think that means that it's over. But I also believe that there may have been a chance that Oklahoma discouraged committing this early. And I say that because now that Nagy is in place and he had Taylor Reed, he's starting to add some staff, that they're about to reevaluate every player that Oklahoma's offered, as well as those that have committed or whatnot, and try to see what makes sense to go after, what makes sense to keep around. And I can totally see them saying, hold off, let's do our evals, and let's come back around and circle back to it in June.
Well, and I think even with a guy like Jonathan Hatton, who was committed really, really early in the process back in the fall of 2023, perhaps they'd want to delay that commitment a little bit more anyway, because he's already decommitted once, right?
Yep.
Maybe you want to but encourage him to wait until the summertime, closer to August, before his senior year, to say, like, be sure that you really, really know, like, don't commit again unless you really are certain that this is us. And Oklahoma has shown that they're able to go the distance in some of these recruiting battles, even if a player is committed somewhere else, and get a late flip. So if that's someone they want to continue to pursue, by all means. I have this question, though, and if I had a chance to ask Jim Nagy this, I would ask him, how much does he and how much will Oklahoma put a value on running back? Because we constantly hear about how Oklahoma's trying to create this NFL-like front office situation for the football program, right? Well, running back has lost a lot of value over the last decade and a half at the NFL level, where it used to be you'd see several running backs taken in the first round. In most NFL drafts, you'd be lucky to see one taken in the first round, and maybe one taken in the top 10 here and there. Generally, it's like you're legitimately great running backs. I'm not going to use the term generational because that gets thrown around way too much, but it's like your Saquon Barkleys, right? They get taken in the first round because the lifespan of the running back is so short. I think that doesn't really hold water in the college game because you're getting running backs in their prime, as opposed to the NFL where they're getting them with so much wear and tear after their collegiate years. So I'd be curious as to how much value the new era of Oklahoma football is going to put on running back. Ooh, so it'll be curious. Like, it's just a fascinating question I have about where we're going, and we'll find out. Like, do they decide to really go all in and try to get a Jonathan Hatton flip, or do they go another direction and maybe try to go after some guys that are a little bit more under the radar?
That's a really good point. Like, I didn't think about it that way, especially like I said, NFL model wise. Yeah, that shift is dramatic right now. I mean, Saquon got his money, but again, like you said, if you're not generational, and that term is thrown around way too much, running backs aren't really getting very good contracts or really being touched. They're barely being focused on it. That makes sense. I don't see them discounting the running back much here at the collegiate level, though. But at the same time, I guess to your point, and I think this is the thing that's now coming to my brain about this, is there's a lot of running backs. There's a lot of skills position players in sports in general. They're the ones that there's way more talent and way more diamonds in the rough that you can find in comparison to anybody else. And that's nothing against Jonathan Hatton and saying, oh, we can just find somebody else like him. No, but we can find another running back. And I think we've got some solid ones too. Like right now, Torrey Blaylock. I mean, his dad posted a video of him training. He's at 6 foot, almost to about 200 pounds right now is what he got his weight set as. And it's pretty darn massive. I didn't know that he was actually that big, but he could be something. So I guess for Oklahoma, it's you're probably going to want to find dudes at the running back position that's going to be versatile, ones that can do multiple things. And so, let me ask this: if you would want a particular, what would be the ideal size you would want at running back? Because there's so many of them between the 5'9", 6'1" range. What would be an ideal size and type of running back you think that Oklahoma could probably use here in the SEC?
It just depends, man. Like if you're if you're 5'11", 215 and you can take hits and you can bounce off tacklers and you're durable, like to me, like that matters. If you're, or if you're, 5'10", 190, but you're durable. Like I think of like a Clyde Edwards-Helaire, right? For LSU back, a couple years ago, he was a little bowling ball. What was he, like 5'8"? Maybe he was 200 pounds. I don't remember if he was 200 pounds or not, but he was just lighting teams up. Now, opposing defenses had to worry so much about what LSU had on the outside that he was getting a lot more space on the inside to run. And so that's some of the balance there is if you have great weapons on the outside, the running back size doesn't matter as much because you're going to be running against lighter boxes. So I don't know. It depends. But, one thing I was looking at overthecap.com, a great resource if you ever want to look at salaries and salary cap information for NFL teams. There's only one running back in the NFL making more than $20 million a year. That's Saquon.
Yep.
Christian McCaffrey, he's right there at 19. There are 22 wide receivers making more than $20 million a year. That just goes to show like where NFL teams are putting their value. So that's going to be fascinating to watch because I subscribe to the Money 5 theory at the NFL level. Quarterback, wide receiver, cornerback, offensive tackle, and edge rusher are the 5 most valuable positions. They're the 5 highest paid relative to the rest of a roster. I think if you wanted to transcribe that to the college game, you're probably going to throw defensive tackle into that group somewhere. Maybe not a Money 5, but a Money 7, because it's really, really hard to find those dynamic guys on the interior that can actually do some damage. But I think running back might be in there too, because again, you're getting players in their prime at the collegiate level at running back. And you can see how much of a difference a running back makes. Look at Ohio State with Travion Henderson and Quinshon Judkins. Like having both of those guys made them really, really difficult to stop. So I think the running back is still a valuable position at the collegiate game. I'm just curious as to how much they will value it.
Yeah, that is the question. I mean, Cam Skattebo came in there and basically carried Arizona State the majority of that game against Texas. So that is a very fair view, I guess you could say, of the running back at the collegiate level. Is it still has value. It still is a position that teams have to respect, even as you're going into spread. But at the same time, while those skills positions, especially wide receivers, are jumping so much, that jet sweep, baby. Get that jet sweep going. Get those fast wide receivers on the outside. Let them just run. Shout out Jeff Lebby, who's probably going to run about 3 or 4 of them to start the game. But hey, if we can get that to be successful with the fast slot dudes that we have, I know that no one will complain about a play like that. But again, like you said, with the Money 5 spots, that's probably where Jim and this team is going to focus all their attention. Well, focus the majority of it to make sure you have the best ones at those spots. Those are probably the places we'll pay the most money. And as I look at it, even with Jonathan Hatton, man, Texas A&M didn't. Their running back room was kind of falling apart last year. I feel bad for them in that capacity. So sure, yeah, I can see us shifting focus on getting multiple backs in this class and getting and maybe trying to go for a home run in 27, maybe. I don't know. But I do believe that they'll at least go for a home run every other year, a la Taylor Tatum #1 this past one, and then, this year with just Torrey Blaylock as a solo in 25.
Yeah, because they've got really good depth right now. We'll see. Maybe later this week we'll discuss what direction Oklahoma might go now that Jonathan Hatton has committed to Texas A&M. We'll discuss that. But coming up, what's next for Oklahoma men's basketball? Women's basketball's got a huge game on Monday against Iowa. We'll discuss all that coming up next here on Locked On Sooners.